In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern. There is some signs of colder air on the way for some points in September as well as October that we're going to be talking about, as well as some major storms. Primarily, we're going to be focusing in here on an East Coast coastal storm that's going to be pretty impactful, as well as kind of a Northern Plains upper Midwest system later down the road that could also bring a fair share of impacts. Now, before we dive into things, be sure to check out Prestige Weather, where we're going to be doing a 99 cent for your first month deal once more. It's only $5 typically, but we're doing only $1 for your first month. That's an automatic discount, so you don't even need to put a code in. We're doing a September photo contest in there where the winner receives $50, so be sure to check that out, as well as our second winter forecast, which is now officially available within Prestige Weather today. So be sure to check out all of that on your top right corner of your screen below this video and get signed up today at that killer price. Let's go ahead and talk about all of this. And as we take a look at the last 7 days real quickly, you can see that this is looking a lot more regressed than it did in yesterday's previous 7 days. We obviously lost one day on here. I guess it would be the 8th here, the 7th. And, you know, things have been warmer over the last few days, and we should expect to see this cold continue to dwindle as we look at the past 7 days every single day. I want to reiterate, as I just kind of move this back a couple of notches here, we can see that this is for the 14th. A lot of folks I'm seeing in, states in the blues saying, there was no cool down. This is data right here. This is stone cold data. This is what happened. So regardless of your opinion, this is the actual recordings of the temperatures that we saw from the 7th through the 14th of September. Whether that was during the lows or the highs, there was below normal temperatures as we forecasted. Again, a lot of folks complaining about still seeing upper 70s and lower 80s. That is pretty much below normal for a lot of areas for early September. You got to remember, early September can oftentimes still feel like summertime. You can still be dealing with heat waves in the 90s or even hundreds for some of these areas. So to see lower 80s and upper 70s is actually quite cool compared to normal for most areas in here. Some of these folks probably even seeing some 60s and lower 70s for some of their highs. So definitely we got to keep our expectations, with the season that we're in and with the time frame that we're in. Here's the past 14 days, and as you can see, this is going to be for basically the 2nd through the 15th here of September, and this kind of shows the full story: upper Midwest, South Central, Ohio Valley and Great Lakes here, and then Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and down through the Southeast here. Really, Florida is the only area that's had above normal temperatures here in the East, and it's been very slight, so probably very close to normal for those areas for the most part. As far as precipitation over the last 14 days, above average basically along this Gulf area, below average for most everywhere else. And as we just kind of dive into the upcoming pattern here, we can see a couple of interesting things. We see our coastal storm. This is bringing some moisture into the Gulf states as well, but also already for the Southeast and Mid-Atlantic. As we take this towards tomorrow, though, we're going to see things really get their act together. Wouldn't be surprised to see this become a tropical storm at this point, striking somewhere between South Carolina and North Carolina. But keep in mind, these impacts are going to stretch far into the Mid-Atlantic and Southeast as we move forward. Some snowfall and rainfall showers are likely to be occurring here out west as well. Here is by the time we're reaching Tuesday, and this is when we see those really far stretching impacts, especially heavy rainfall here for West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, as well as the Delmarva here. I know a lot of you have been complaining about the lack of rainfall. Well, here it is. We're seeing a lot more for these areas. Also along the Rockies, some rainfall, but also snowfall for the heavier elevations there could be pretty prevalent. Now, Wednesday is when we get kind of that northern plains low here. We see 988 over Montana. Heavy rainfall, even thunderstorms likely here along this cold front could be possible for the plains. Still, some coastal rainfall is occurring for the Mid-Atlantic and Southeast, keep in mind. Thursday, what we're seeing is the progression of this stronger low through Canada. Cold front really taking hold there across, again, the northern plains, upper Midwest area. And the East Coast continues to see precipitation, much needed precipitation. Also, take a look at California and Nevada. Some snowfall to the Sierra Nevadas, as well as some rainfall in the lower elevation areas surrounding. Friday on the 20th here, a lot of the same. Saturday here, we get another major storm system developing just to the east of the Rockies here, bringing some more thunderstorm possibilities here for the plains and Midwest. Definitely something we will be watching closely. Here's Sunday afternoon. That low is still rather weak over Kansas, but bringing some pretty heavy rainfall to the Midwest and Plains again. As we reach towards Monday here on the 23rd, we see this low is taking on a pretty intense look. Warm front out to the east of it, cold front swinging underneath, and this could once again spell some thunderstorm activity to the upper Midwest. As we reach towards Tuesday, this low really gets stretched out, still over Minnesota and Wisconsin. Cold front is really extended far to the south and far to the east of this low, so cooler air really diving in as we've been kind of predicting here. Definitely going to be a likelihood here at this point. By Wednesday, reaching closer to the East Coast, and overall your jet stream is a ridge in the west, trough over most of the central states and a lot of the east as well. Here is the overall look. Now, as we take a look at the total precipitation here, we could see areas throughout the kind of northern Rockies, northern plains, upper Midwest, as well as the central plains seeing above average precipitation. And then also along this mid-Atlantic and southeast area where we are expecting some tropical impacts. As we take a look at those actual precipitation anomalies, it's just as I said, again, above average for a lot of the Rockies and plains here, as well as your mid-Atlantic and southeast corridor. But really dry in between, especially in these eastern areas that aren't seeing that tropical system, still rather dry. So we're holding on to this eastern dry pattern. Now, as we dive into the tropics, I do apologize, this is a shorter video, but it is a late night special and I want to get it out at a decent time. I kind of ran out of time today, so we're trying to keep this one a lot shorter. We can see along the East Coast, let me make sure I refresh this because there's probably a big update. Yeah, there we go. So we have potential tropical cyclone 8 there off the East Coast. And then tropical depression Gordon down to a tropical depression as we sort of expected here. So let's take a look at Gordon first things first. And it is expected to remain at a tropical depression until about Friday, where it's strongly curved to the north here. As you can see, likely going to remain an out to sea system with little to no concern for any land, let alone the United States. So that is the current expectations. We also see potential tropical cyclone 8 here is expected to turn into a tropical storm here very shortly before striking South Carolina likely. There is a pretty wide cone considering how close we are to the strike of this storm. It will very quickly become a post-tropical cyclone over South Carolina before tracking over North Carolina, Western Virginia, and into West Virginia likely, bringing heavy rainfall to all of those areas. And again, areas far outside of this cone as well. So this is going to be a very much needed rainfall event for many of these folks. Very good news for certain aspects. Obviously, some stronger winds, some flooding possibilities is going to be the downside of this storm. And I want you guys to take this one seriously. It does look like it could be a pretty decent rainmaker. I'm thinking that some areas might see 5 inches plus. And especially when these areas have been very dry, that's going to be extremely impactful. Even a few inches could be very impactful because I know I'm like a broken record. I've said this for a few days now, but the ground being so dry is not going to accept that rainfall as it normally would. It's probably going to reject it and have a lot of that rainfall accumulating on the surface as kind of just flooding before it really slowly seeps in. You know, whenever you take really, if you guys are gardeners, you know, if you have really dry dirt and you try to put water into it, that water just does not move into the dirt. It just sits right on top of it, and that's a lot of what I expect to be potentially taking place for these very dry areas, unfortunately. So some implications there, definitely stuff to think about. Here's to hoping that the rainfall starts pretty slow and gets the kind of ground saturated a little bit before the heaviest of it moves in. I think that's going to be the saving grace, if any, here for some of those flooding possibilities. Anyway, guys, we do upload every single day, and usually they're a lot more detailed and longer than this, so be sure to subscribe. Be sure to also hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.